Hello, everybody. It's Max with Crypto Talk Now. A while back on May 3rd, we did a report in regards to Dfft. And while I felt as though that was the path forward for regulatory clarity when it comes to, for instance, data democratization and the path forward to just that where we're at in crypto as far as the United States, the rest of the world, and so on, Japan is definitely a big player towards that path forward for clarity. Well, today's video is an outline, and in fact, it's part 2 in regards to Dfft. To give you a reminder of what I'm talking about, let's go ahead and show you this right here. And basically this, like it says, Jasmy, is Dfft the path towards regulatory clarity? Now, if you're not caught up on this, I would highly recommend you watch this particular video. It is in the video section catalog for you to review whenever you choose to do so. If you don't, that's okay too. This outline will, for the most part, catch you up on what is going on. I want to give a shout out to Brian at WC3068, as well as a few other people like Forza Leche, if I'm pronouncing that right, who provided me some of these deep dive research for tonight's outline. So we're going to jump right into this, and I thought I'd give you the ChatGPT summary in regards to all this. So Dfft, what does it basically stand for? It stands for Data Free Flow with Trust, and it is an initiative, like it mentions here, proposed by the Japanese government to promote the free flow of data across borders while ensuring privacy and security. The concept of Dfft is based on the belief that unrestricted data flows can drive innovation and economic growth, while protecting personal information and security can build trust among stakeholders and encourage cross-border data flows. For Japan, the implementation of Dfft could lead to increased economic growth by facilitating the exchange of data and digital services across borders. Japan is a technologically advanced country with a strong digital economy, and Dfft could further enhance its position as a global leader in the digital space. Listen to this. Additionally, the initiative could encourage foreign investment and partnerships, as companies may be willing, or I should say more willing, to invest in Japan if they're assured of data protection and privacy. For the world, Dfft could facilitate the development of new digital products and services that rely on cross-border data flows such as AI, the Internet of Things, and blockchain technology. Who stands at the forefront of those three things that we just mentioned? You better believe it's Jasmy. All the way, 110%. However, there are concerns that Dfft could lead to the exploitation of personal data, particularly in countries with weaker data protection laws. To address these concerns, the concept of, quote, trust in Dfft emphasizes the importance of creating a secure and transparent data ecosystem that protects personal information and builds trust among stakeholders. Finally, overall, Dfft has the potential to promote innovation and economic growth. But notice how it mentions promote innovation and economic growth while protecting privacy and security. However, its success will depend on the ability of governments and stakeholders to implement policies and regulations that balance these competing interests. Now, I read most of that verbatim, let's face it, but I wanted to give you guys that summary of it because it's one thing to talk about Dfft in an outline. There's another to also have an idea before you get into the outline about what it is and so on. Some key things I want you to take away from today's outline is just that. And where it says, for instance, creating a secure and transparent data ecosystem. And on top of that, where it mentions that, you're going to have cross-border data flows such as AI and the Internet of Things, blockchain technology, and so on. And especially some of the policies. When they mention some of the things with policies and government, we're going to have a segment that's going to tie this all in. All right, let's jump into the outline, the beginning of this outline. This made recent news, May 8, 2023, free and open data distribution, data safety and security, Japan's Dfft to be implemented. Hence why we're doing an update in regards to this. Now, you see some of these people from the G7 2023 Hiroshima Summit. G7 Digital and Tech Ministers Meeting, in fact. Like it says, data is a source of competitiveness in the digital age and is also called the oil of the 21st century. Many times, you guys, even on our live show, have posted in comments that you feel as though when it comes to blockchain data through distributed ledger technologies and so on, that is digital oil. Another example of that would be, for instance, what you see in Energy Web Token, Constellation DEG, obviously Jasmy. Japan proposed DFFT Note, which aims to promote free and reliable data flow internationally. That was originally introduced back in 2019 with Mr. and I'm trying to pronounce this right, Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Now, of course, he ended up getting assassinated, I believe it was last year, but he did originally introduce this, and he introduced it to the World Economic Forum. Again, the previous video will give you an outline in regards to that. So, based on the idea of free flow of data with a framework that guarantees reliability will lead to economic growth, we are promoting initiatives to implement DFFT in cooperation with various countries. So, it's not just a thing that's strictly Japan. It says their country is the first in the world to advocate this. Now, that, of course, is why I feel as though Japan is leading the charge when it comes to, blockchain acceptance, adoption. Let's face it, the thing with the Web3 white paper that was introduced. With the advancement of networks and the utilization of AI, IoT, etc., the amount of data in circulation is expanding significantly. While smooth data distribution is important for the utilization of various data, important data related to the provision of critical infrastructure services must be appropriately protected regardless of whether it is in Japan or overseas. Listen to this. It's essential to make full use of data to achieve economic growth, but if you try to share data across borders, there must be trust there. Absolutely. At the end of the day, why would anybody bother to go, mess around with some of these technologies if there's not real trust? If there's trust, people have doubts, especially if there's hacks. Based on this, the DFFT points out that it's necessary to ensure the safety of privacy, security, intellectual property, etc., and that data be distributed freely both in Japan and overseas. It aims to build a global framework centered on free and open data flow and data safety and security. The DFFT was proposed for the first time, of course, like I mentioned, by Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, and it was at Davos conference in January of 2019. Now, of course, there's a full article on this. You can read more about it. I'm going to jump into this next part because it's going to tie in a lot of things that are going to make sense and why even reference, for instance, Jasmy. Now, this was originally posted on May 11th, which was literally yesterday. And it goes on to mention about this whole thing of AI Web3 PT proposes Prime Minister Kishida on national strategy formulation in the new era. Here's some of these people that showed up to this particular conference. The Party Digital Society Promotion Headquarters, which is the director, that you see here of the member of the House of Representatives project team on evolution and implementation of AI and Web3 project team, PT, both chaired by Masaki Taira, member of the House of Representatives, on May 9th, submitted a white paper. Now, we were told, and we reported on this, remember you saw on CoinDesk, saw the interview from those two ladies talking about there's going to be proposed white paper. We got the white paper. Unfortunately, it was all in Japanese, but here's an update in regards to that. So on May 9th, the submitted white paper with recommendations summarizing the discussions of the PT to Prime Minister Fumio Kishida at the Prime Minister's office, positioning the global changes surrounding AI as, quote, the advent of the new AI era. That's pretty powerful to think about it. It's like the new advent, the new era. Yeah, there's all different forms of AI progressing, just like there's a progressing internet, hence why we refer to it as Web 3. He called for the formulation of a new national strategy for Japan's economy and society to respond to these changes. In his proposal for Web3, he said, quote, because our country has overcome many hardships in the cryptocurrency industry, we are in a position to convincingly persuade the world of immeasurable future of Web3. It showed the future possibilities of Web3. Now, I did take the liberty of jumping into both of these PDFs for both the AI white paper and the Web3 white paper. Unfortunately, There is no English interpretation. In the future, I may take more of a deeper dive into it, especially if we have any updates from ChatGPT or anything in regards to reading this possible. You have some of these lawmakers here and so on, right? And it is significant. Again, this is all going to make sense here in a bit. Now, I want to give a shout especially to this guy. His name is Level 8, and I would highly recommend following him on Twitter. Now, you're going to get a bunch of, text in Japanese, and you may think, well, why would I want to follow somebody like that? I live in the United States. I don't speak Japanese, Okay, I get it. But all you have to do when you see something like this is there's this thing where you can click on it says translate from Japanese to, for instance, English. And what he has here is a great, fantastic outline. So shout out to you, sir, if you're watching this. He says, listen, everyone, the second is a tweet from a person who heard from Mr. Okabe of JPYC. And later in our outline, we're going to show you some significance in regards to some past interviews for this guy. It says, Japanese yen stablecoin will be distributed in Japan from June 1st. That's coming up here like in a few weeks. At the G7, Japan proposes global standardization of stablecoins. Jasmy wallet can possibly exchange various stablecoins for DD coins and Jasmy coins in the wallet. Now, if you guys remember, about a couple or 3 videos back, I put some emphasis on why I felt as though that this whole thing with the DD coins was really, really significant because of what was going on with Quant, right? Basically speaking, we understand that through Quant, you can have Hyperledger Fabric to be interoperable with Quant's Overledger. And I also want to state this. Some of you guys didn't watch the full video. I can clearly see that because in the comments, you guys are stating that, wow, man, this is a Quant partnership. It is not a Quant partnership. The ball is basically in the court of, for instance, Horror or some of these other guys to make the connections, if you will. And I understand. I saw Mr. Uncle Ray, Crypto Bellwether, in the comments basically stating that this is a real stretch and, there's thousands of companies, or I should say hundreds of thousands of people that work for KPMG, and there's other people that say this as well. Yeah, that's very well true. Is there hundreds of thousands of people that worked in AI? Is there hundreds of thousands of people who worked in blockchain technology? Is there hundreds of thousands of people who have done work on personal data lockers? No. Hara has a background of 11 years when it comes to KPMG, and he's done work in what? Audit, and also finance. And with that said, I'm not going to dismiss that. Why? Because I think they also didn't see the other video, and that is basically that Quant recently applied for that Japanese patent. Again, these guys just take what's off the surface. And the last thing, it doesn't say this is huge. It says this could be huge. Right, it could be huge, but it's not a guaranteed partnership. Some people say it's speculative. Call it what you want. But at the end of the day, we do know that Overledger had that update a while back in regards to Hyperledger Fabric. So that simply makes sense for Jasmy to basically contact them and try to do something in regards to Overledger. Make things interoperable. But nobody wants to look into all that stuff. They just want to flood the research. Whatever. All right. Back to the outline. All right. So it says, this is a second tweet from a person who heard from, like I mentioned, this guy, Mr. Okabe of JPYC. Japanese yen stablecoin will be distributed in Japan on June 1st. I probably reiterated that. Apologize. At the G7, Japan proposes global standardization of stablecoins. Like I mentioned earlier, Jasmy wallet can possibly exchange various stablecoins for DD coins and Jasmy coins in the wallet. Now, I want to jump down to this. Check this out. See how this works? And then you just click on translate tweet. Boom. Companies in the Jasmy blockchain Hyperledger Fabric Consortium will no longer need exchanges. Yeah, it will no longer need exchanges. And we're going to get into some of the proof in the outline, because some of you guys are going to say, well, this is just a guy on crypto Twitter who's stating that. Do you have anything to back that up? Sources? Oh, yeah, you better believe we do, because that's a great question. But, that's the thing. No longer need exchanges. Once we get more into this is going to be the ultimate blanky blank you of Binance, to say the least. So look at this. This is a summary of yesterday's talk by Mr. Okabe, the representative of JPYC. It was a precious story. Stablecoins, Japan has been working on the legalization of cryptocurrencies ahead of the rest of the world. Japanese yen stablecoin will be circulated in Japan from June 1st at the Hiroshima summit. Japan plans to propose a global standard for stablecoins. We just showed you some footage from the Hiroshima summit. How so? Well, I'll remind you. Here it basically is. Boom. G7 Digital and Tech Ministers Meeting. G7 2023 Hiroshima Summit. All right. We're going to get further down into this. Translate that as well. Hong Kong has also come to Japan for hearings. Once the stablecoin standard is decided, the significance of the existence of exchanges will fade. Now, I want to give a shout out to, and if you're going to watch this at some point, hopefully you do, Metalmike, you have stated this. You have stated that we need more than ever to basically have the want and need for the decentralization of exchanges, if you will. We got to get, if we're going to have exchanges, we need to focus more on some of the decentralized one. Maybe not word for word or what you said, but I do definitely remember you putting out a tweet in regards to that. Hopefully I retweeted myself. Coins can be easily exchanged between wallets. JPYC, Circle, and Coinbase lead the standard. USDC's listing in Japan is near. USDT has an objection to backing of assets, and there is no listing on the Japanese exchange for the time being. Yeah, for the time being. Now we're going to jump back to a few key things here. Notice that level 8 mentioned this specifically. Draw your attention to this. He says, once the stablecoin, I don't read this again, but it's, again, some emphasis. Once the stablecoin standard is decided, and it will be, you better believe that this is happening literally as we speak. I wouldn't be surprised if we get some kind of, distinct clarification, regulatory clarity, if you will, like it mentions by June 1st or in the month of June. So once the stablecoin standard is decided, the significance of the existence of exchanges, hence Binance, yeah, CZ, better be paying attention, will fade. Coins can easily exchange between wallets. Now think about that for a moment. Between wallets. Remember in the emergency meeting, what did Hara mention? Now I understand people are going to state, Max, that emergency meeting was very underwhelming. I would agree with you. But here's the significance. The significance is this, right here on my particular thread. Moonlight asks, what will Jasmy team do? What kind of procedures will be made? Hara mentions in that emergency meeting, press coverage, we are rapidly developing a regional wallet as a main product. Whoa, what is going on here? To functionally link data and tokens on that wallet and a token economy. And again, once you see this video here soon, it's all going to make sense to you guys. I'm telling you flat out. It's all going to make sense. We would like to realize some economies in which originally PCs can manage data securely using the blockchain. We want to utilize data so it will go into the wallet. Many people can increase the value of their data using the Jasmy token. Pretty crazy stuff. Let's jump back to what we have. Now, in regards to all this, right? We were talking about the DD token earlier. And if anything, we did a deep dive in regards to we need to get something done with Quant because, people are going to say that's speculative, but that simply makes sense for those people that just want to watch the, look at the thumbnail and not hear us out when it comes to the research. Listen to the entire video. That's why we take these deep dives. All right, so shout out to Brian. He can be followed at WC3068. He tweeted this, I think, 6 hours ago. Yeah, he did. So he says, another good question. I know there are a lot of people new to Twitter or Jasmy in general. Hara recently referred to the point system in a reply on Twitter. Points do not require a wallet. See the screenshot of my personal Sagan Tosu app. I don't use it much as Lil Bidman and other Westerners do, LOL. Well, I mean, come on. I'm not going to use that either, But he's using it basically for what, guys? For research. To give him an idea of, he's obviously passionate like myself about Jasmy coverage. It is one example of an app that collects DD points. And in our deep dive in regards to DD, which stands for Data Democratization Stablecoin, or points, if you will, we give a full breakdown on that. It says that does not mean that is taking the place of Jasmy coin. When a company purchases data from the data marketplace, the users receive DD coin as a stable form of value when compared to typical cryptocurrencies. Here's a bunch of references regarding more of that. You can listen to me discuss DD coin and the value of Jasmy in the timestamp from this post. You can go to that. Again, if you want to look into any of this, just give them a follow on Twitter. It says, see more about the ecosystem from slides provided last year at Jasmy Management and more information regarding the token economy in one of his threads from last year. Again, him, Jesse from KIR Finance, there's others, right? Zippy, have all covered this long before this, Jasmy has been going a little bit more mainstream, right? It says you can also see Hara's answer to some of the questions from one of the oldest community members in Japan, who is this guy right here, Jasmir. Of course, a lot of this is his interpretation. You have references to make your own judgment, right? Let's take just a moment, because we're not going to click on the one on the left. We're going to click on the one from Hara. So Hara was asked about this originally, and I'll try to blow this up a little bit more for you guys. He was asked about this originally, I believe, sometime last year. Let's blow this up. Here it is. Jasmine says DD coin is a corporate point and Jasmy coin is a crypto asset, right? This is back on October 12th, 2022. Here's an example. Legal currency, yen prepaid, JPYC point. We'll get back into that JPYC and the head guy of that DD coin. Yuzo Kano says, if you're new to Web3, check out this table to see what you can exchange for what. All right. So Hard responds, he says, DD coin prepaid on-chain and DD points off-chain are designed to be compatible. First of all, we will implement the point function and add value to the data. Then transfer the value to your own blockchain. After that, we will connect the crypto assets and blockchain to the wallet and make it possible to receive the data value. Of course, Jasmine responds, thank you for your reply. I'm also considering a prepaid system. Are you a homebody? Third-party type? I'm looking forward to it. DD point and DD coin are different things. And they are different things. Just like why, DD data democratization coin is obviously different from, Jasmy's native token of just that, Jasmy, right? It's literally, DD coin is supposed to be their stable coin. All right, I'm going to jump back into a little bit more of what we have here. So I showed you guys some of this. I want to jump back to this right here. I think if anything, yeah, this is it right here. Excuse me. Back to his outline. All right. So it says, you can see more about this and so on. And, some guy asks, what does this have to do with DD coin? You have to just jump into it. All right. So let's take you to this and back to level 8. So he states, it could be a she, I don't know. Anyway. Level 8 states, revision of the Payment Services Act, introduction of a registration system for intermediaries that act as intermediaries between issuers, banks, trusts, companies, etc., of electronic payment instruments and users, and perform the following actions: JPYC prepaid payment instruments, issuance, business, blue economy, blue carbon trading, etc., etc. Now, you may be wondering, you're like, well, where are you going with this? Well, I want to state this much. Where I'm going with this is, you have heard recently in regards to the Jasmy grant. And I did have this tab up. I do apologize. I'm going to show you something that was recently introduced from the Jasmy grant. And here it is. Carbon footprints. Now, some people have stated this is, possibly why, Binance is going after Jasmy. And that could be further for, from the truth, because this is just a grants program. These are not official ones that were selected. All right, so let's just clear the air when it comes to that. So we are incredibly excited to announce that CFT Carbon has officially entered the Jasmy grant program. We're eager to embark on this journey to work together with all Jasmy holders and contribute to building a greener, more sustainable future. Now, when we get more into this, I want to show you guys this right here, and it's called Carbon Footprints. They do have a site. Let's take you to that right now. And I think we were trying to take you to that last night, actually. My bad. Their website apparently is still down. But the main key takeaway is, basically speaking, is they track your carbon footprint, right? So if you're, um, let's say for instance you took the bus, right? And you carpooled on the bus, you might get some credits for that because it's a lot better than hopping into a car, or if you use some other thing in which maybe you rode your bicycle to work and things like that. They have an app in which basically, and I review this, of course, from their site. Just I don't know why their site's still down. But on the app, it shows that you get rewarded in these points. So I just thought I'd throw that out there, right? To kind of have it make sense in regards to this. So anyway, he's got some pictures in regards to all this. I'll show you a little bit in regards to all of that. I mean, it's just all in Japanese. You're not going to be able to really understand it, of course, unless you speak Japanese, right? So he took a lot of pictures in regards to that. I want to jump down to this and check this out for yourself. Here's the interpretation. I wonder if Japanese yen denominated stablecoins will be distributed domestically from June 1st after this is enforced. Issuers of electronic payment instruments, etc. Does this include Jasmy? I don't really understand the mechanism of JPYC denominated DD coin. Now we're going to take more, again, of that deeper dive into this in a bit. He has this. Writing was weird. An intermediary who performs the following acts. Applicable acts. Acts of increasing or decreasing deposit claims, etc. on behalf of banks, etc. Requirements for entry, a certain financial basis, a system that enables the proper and reliable execution of operations, etc., etc. Regulations, informative provisions, right? Maintenance. I mean, he takes more of his own deeper dive into this, to say the least. All right? Can't get an interpretation on that, but that's okay. I want to jump back to why I'm making a big deal about some of this. So, 13 hours ago, Ondu, who's, the same guy, level 8, says Jasmy Hong Kong is also coming to Japan for a hearing, and they are, right? And that's literally, I think, happening as we speak, or maybe it already happened. But it says, once the stablecoin standard is decided, the significance of the existence of exchanges, like you mentioned before, will fade. Coins can easily be exchanged between wallets, hence why we reference some of this. Jasmy, like it says, the summary of yesterday's talk between Mr. Okabe, CEO, JPYC, was precious. Stablecoins Japan was working with the legalization of cryptocurrencies. And we're going to get into some of that particular outline. And of course, we got into a lot of this. So, who is this guy that he's referring to? Well, here he is, introducing this guy, the founder spotlight of JPYC, Noritaka Okabe. I pronounced that right. Okabe-san is the CEO of the only regulated JPY pegged stablecoin in Japan, and his team includes a 17-year-old CTO, a 65-year-old employee, and a group of digital nomads. Now, it made headlines a while back and so on, but the reason why I'm going to share it with you is it's all going to, again, make sense. You just kind of have to stick with it. I know there's a lot of material to go into in regards to this, but if anything, I think some of you guys do appreciate some of these deep dives. So look what it says. Headline Asia recently invested in JPYC as the lead investor of Series A, along with Circle, which issues a USD pegged stablecoin, obviously USDC, and Infinity Ventures Crypto, which invests in promising startups in the Web3 ecosystem globally. JPYC Inc. was founded in November of 2019. In January 2021, it started issuing JPYC, a Japanese yen pegged stablecoin, as Japan's first ERC-20 prepayment instrument. Now, of course, before we even get more into this, some of you guys are going to say, so it wasn't Jasmy. There's a catch. So let's get into that. JPYC Inc. is actively working with various partners in order to increase the use cases for JPYC online and offline. In this article, our investor, Jonathan M. Hayashi, was in charge of the investment in JPYC, will be interviewing, of course, this guy. It says, you have such an interesting career as you have been an entrepreneur your whole life. Can you please share your story and so on? Now, I don't want to get into the whole thing about this story. You can definitely take a look into it if you want. But there's a few key things that he basically mentions here. And that is this right here. In 2017, he carved out a secondary company with a mindset and goal to help users stay healthy by making them walk more. Again, you got to keep in mind this whole thing of where Jasmy has some of the carbon offsets or initiatives, right, with an app or this particular company from the grants program and so on. So it says we issued a virtual currency that would be allocated as compensation for walking. Keep in mind, Jasmy has the DD coin, which issues compensation for using that particular cryptocurrency, or that stable coin, I should say, by doing all sorts of things. Like, for instance, you might use it to go to the Seigen Tosu event. You might use it at concerts. You might use it just go on a subway or, or the bullet trains, you name it. So it says in late 2019, he founded his third company, which is now renamed JPYC Inc. And the guy basically asks, is it legally registered as a crypto asset in Japan? And of course, this guy, right, he says it's called Aruku coin. Aruku means walking in Japanese. It's still up and running, but he's not involved anymore. The service connects to users' smartphones to check how many miles they walked. The more the users walk, the more Aru coin they get. They can also earn additional Aru coin by going to specific locations. And here, of course, is the catch. The catch is it's not registered as a crypto asset in Japan, hence why Jasmy is still labeled as the Bitcoin of Japan. And all that basically means, especially for you newcomers, is that it's the first. As we know, BTC does not have technically smart contracts, right? So, you can't call something like, that has Hyperledger Fabric and, is an ERC20 token as, the Bitcoin of Japan. We get all that, right? So yes, it's not registered as a crypto asset in Japan. It cannot be listed on any local crypto exchange, and it could only be distributed for free, but could not be sold at a price. The company could not be custodial, meaning it could not hold the Aruk coin on behalf of the users. Now I want to show you guys this. He says one thing that's amazing about the JPYC Inc. is the age diversity of their employees and so on, right? I mean, it's kind of a unique story, right? He started when I believe he was 15 and 16 and so on. But he states, all these things that you can get into, and he goes into like the background of this and so on. Again, like I mentioned, he's looking to do some big things with this. One thing that did catch my eye, he was asked, or from this guy who's doing interviewing, what do you hope to achieve in the next 12 months? Well, 10 billion is a good number. Now, why would that be? Through innovation. But here's a key thing that I'm showing to you guys, and you may think this is a joke. Think about some of the terminology here. He says, I would aim for issuance amount of JPY 10 billion for JPYC. As for hiring, we are actively looking for engineers as well as English-speaking talents. I'm hoping the people who join us would become JPYC Mafia. As you guys seen, there's a lot of people refer to Jasmy instead of the Jasmy Army, refer to them as the Jasmy Mafia. Call it what you want. Similar to the idea of PayPal Mafia. All right, so I thought I'd share that with you guys. Obviously, there's a lot more when it comes to like the founder spotlight. There he is again. But the key thing is, like it mentions, this is a USD peg stablecoin, and Infinity Ventures crypto invested in promising startups in the Web3 ecosystem globally. Now, as we jump back to this, look what's also mentioned from level 8. AI strategy implementation meeting. AI strategy meeting with Hiroki Kitano from Sony was a member. You'll pay attention. Now you're wondering, like, man, this is just too much information. This is all over the place. I'm doing my best to keep it with the flow. I can see where some complaints are going to be. I'm just going to be honest, but hear me out on this. It takes you to this particular link, and the reason why this is significant is because of this. This guy who has this information here is a member of the House of Representatives elected from, obviously in Japan, right? But he posts some of this information. LDP AI Evolution and Implementation Project Team. AI such as the GPT series and drawing AI is once attracting a great deal of attention due to the evolution of foundation models. The Liberal Democratic Party launched a new project team on the evolution and implementation of AI. Chairman Masaki Taira, member of the House of Representatives, to discuss Japan's AI strategy and policy recommendations. This page will be updated with each theme and materials that can be released. This happened basically, this meeting, May 11th, which was yesterday. What's the significance? Again, the significance is this guy, Hiroki Kitano from Sony, was a member, and he basically was at that meeting. Why is that significant to you as a Jasmy holder? Well, basically speaking, is because Hiroki Kitano, has had a long history with Sony. How so? Let's show you guys this real quick. So it states, basically speaking, that you know, he of course is a Japanese scientist. He is the head of Systems Biology Institute. He's the president and CEO of Sony Computer Sciences Laboratories, a group of laboratory for disease systems modeling, Center of Integrative Medical Sciences, and a professor at Okinawa Institute of Science and Technology. Kano is known for developing IBO, the Robotic World Cup tournament, as RoboCup. Now, understand also this, right? Some people are going to say, well, man, this is a stretch. I don't care. I will state this, all right? He has strong ties to robotics. As we know with Jasmy through WITS, they have strong ties to robotics. What do we also know, guys, right? We also know that he has, for instance, worked with Sony for many, many years. You got to keep in mind the time he was born, 1961, which I would like to introduce this particular guy. As you guys know, CEO Koku Takiando. Now, why, point him out? Well, he's the president and COO of Sony Corporation, president and COO of Sony Engineering and Manufacturing of America, chairman and representative director of Sony Financial Holdings Inc., chairman of Sony Life Insurance Co. Limited, etc. He was appointed as representative director of the company in April 2016. Currently director of Japan Innovation Network. Can't make this stuff up. Yeah, Mr. Crypto Bellwether wants to say I make stuff up. You can't make it up. Look into it yourself. President of University of Nagano, etc. All right. So I want to state that director of Japan Innovation Network. He has ties to Sony. Previous page, we saw, for instance, this guy who's going to be at this meeting for May 11th for AI. What do we know is coming up here soon for Jasmy? The AI tech engine. Will that be tied into Sony technology? A lot of people feel as though it very well could be. Oh, that's a stretch, Max. Oh, that's speculative. So what? So it's speculative. You really want to get into Jasmy when this thing blows up? Just because, for you to have verification that's no longer speculative? Call it what you want. All right, look at this. Here's a picture of him on the right. This guy was at Hong Kong, right? As we know, this guy was featured with Hara on the Hong Kong, at this Nova Global, which was a one-day event in Hong Kong. Hara was, featured with this guy. This guy, I can't remember his name. He points to, for instance, Kunitake Ando. Now, here's something I found that was kind of fishy, and I want to point this out. This right here. During this event in Hong Kong, were you aware that there was a Binance VIP night going on at the same time? Now, I don't want to ruffle anybody's feathers and so on or anything, but I find it awfully odd that we understand that there is going to be a potential delisting. I mean, there isn't. We understand that when it comes to Binance, they haven't delisted, but they put Jasmy into the innovation zone. Okay. I also want to state this. This happened on April 14th, roughly, right? Maybe this was reported like the day after, but roughly about a month ago. Okay. And that was a big deal. Could it very well have been a perfect case in which you had some people from Binance meet up with, for instance, Hara? They had a back and forth. You never know what happened behind closed doors. I just want to throw it out there. Binance VIP event at the same time that Jasmy is at this Hong Kong event. I mean, at the end of the day, people are going to say that's speculative too. I get that. But I'm just saying, there could have been something that happened that caused these chain events. I don't know. All right. Of course, there's more information about this meetup. And just in case people want to have doubts that, Jasmy was there, it even shows Jasmy was there. And we did see, pictures of her actually at the event presenting, Jasmy and PDL and all the use cases. Okay, there we go on that. All right, I want to show you guys this right here. And basically speaking, where is this right now? Yeah. Kunutaki Andu. Yeah, let's talk about him real quick. I had to double check that was, the guy that's with Jasmy. Apologize. So it states that he became president. By the way, he was born in 1942. Okay, so he's kind of up there in age. He became president of Sony Corporation in June 2000. He has been an employee of the company since 1969. Think about that for a second. So, if anything, him and the other guy that we basically highlighted have worked together, right? Just simply makes sense. But yeah, it says on March 7th of 2005, it was announced that he would step down to be an advisor. And then, of course, there's some things that happened. He first served on the board from 94 to 97. He was removed as part of the massive reduction of the size of the board initiated by Sony president Ide. He did not return to the board until he succeeded Ide as president, even though he was named executive deputy president and chief operating officer in April 2000. His secondary title was altered to group chief operating officer in 2003 to global hub president in 2004. Furthermore, he is also founder and CEO of Jasmy Incorporated. Jasmy is a Japanese cryptocurrency listed on multiple popular exchanges. Now, here's one of the key things I want to show you guys. So we saw on the previous one, on the profile right here, that he's currently the director of Japan Innovation Network, right? And president of University of Nagano, etc. Nagano, etc., excuse me. I want to jump back to what we have here, and I want to show you guys this right here. All right, and this is what is so significant, and then we'll kick it into the video. Check this out. So he's the president of this, the Center of Social Innovation Initiative, CSI, which aims to connect academia, industry, government. This is one of the centers that's part of the school, which he heads up. But again, this aims to connect academia, industry, government. Think of those three things. And there's other things mentioned, social innovation initiatives. And the community, and is basically located in Gosho. The CSI focuses on developing solutions, products, and services for contemporary social problems such as declining birth rate, aging population, and environmental issues or pressures from a business perspective. So when we have this whole type of thing of Jasmy and the concept of these smart cities and so on, and what Jasmy brings to the table as far as personal data lockers and the ties that they have in for instance with WITS and some of these other companies to promote smart cities. Understand this guy literally heads up what? The Center of Social Innovation Initiatives over at this school, which is the University of Nagano. That's like, he is the head guy. All right, so with that said, remember everything on this outline. I know it's a lot to take in. We're going to jump into this particular video to tie all of this in. So smash that like if you haven't done so already. Hopefully you're still here. I know it's quite the outline. Let's watch this. Here we go.
So let me talk about digital transformation and how important it is for society and the economy. In the past, trade involved the exchange of goods and services. But today, thanks to the growth in the knowledge economy, the physical and the cyber worlds have come together. And what we are increasingly sending back and forth across the border is not just the goods and service, but data as well. So digital trade is producing new business model in which data collected at factories, shops, online is analyzed by artificial intelligence to create a new value. Digital innovation is changing everything from taxis to Uber and pizza parlors, thanks to things like AI-assisted predictive ordering, delivery, or preparation. Even in manufacturing, all manner of processes can now be performed virtually with physical component downloaded and 3D printed as needed. So new innovations are also changing the internet. They're creating new frontiers like Web3 and the metaverse. They're enabling new forms of human organization through networks that are more decentralized and autonomous than traditional companies and government. In short, major paradigm shift is taking place. And how then should we in the government respond to this new world? It's this question, I think it's critical, and Washington, in that sense, would be a good venue to talk about that. In 2019, Japan proposed a concept called Data Free Flow with Trust, or DFFT. The idea was to encourage value-creating exchanges of data across borders by creating mechanisms to strengthen security, authentication, and other pillars of trust. DFFT has made important advances, but unfortunately, there's another trend, one towards digital protectionism. Some countries, many of them authoritarian, are moving to force technology businesses to store data domestically or disclose their source code to the government. The originally united world of the internet is now fragmented with differing national rules producing what some call the splinternet. What I feel is the most critical issue right now is the emergence of troublesome cyber players from rogue nations and the destruction of internet governance by certain states of concern. The Russian invasion of Ukraine is an example. Cyber attacks took place before the physical invasion. We have seen state-sponsored fake news and disinformation and attacks on the telecommunications infrastructure. Because of the cloud computing and AI, unlimited offensive capability can be obtained for just a few dollars. Cyber resilience and online safety are more important than ever. And this is true not only in extreme circumstances such as war. To achieve the trust-based data flows envisioned by DFFT, we must ensure privacy and security and transparent and trustworthy rules for government access to information. Countering disinformation such as fake news is an important issue everywhere. The question now is how to promote the digitalization of society in a holistic and reliable way to reverse the fragmentation and chaos of the larger digital world. We live in an era in which countries' power is determined by the way they harness digital technology. Structural changes like the fourth industrial revolution and a crisis like the pandemic and the climate change only amplify this dynamic. In Japan, we created a new digital agency in 2021 to oversee the digital transformation of the government. We were motivated in part by Japan's own experiences. In the analog technology, Japan was at the forefront of the world. But truth is that the pandemic, the COVID, exposed how far we have fallen behind in deployment of digital technology in the society. For instance, I was minister in charge of the vaccine rollout last year, 2 years ago. The health ministry were trying to count the paper to find out how many vaccine administered the day before. And I thought that's impossible. There was no online access to doctors. Information required to pandemic-related financial benefit to individual or business, it was collected by snail mail, and it slowed down everything. For some government procedures today, you're still required to submit application in floppy disk, yeah. So I had to declare war on floppy disk in Japan. And the BBC carried the news globally. I got many phone calls from my former foreign minister counterpart. Hey, can you buy floppy disk in Japan? How much are they? So digital agency was conceived as a response to this situation. It's a kind of command post to oversee Japan's catch-up on digitalization and to promote the digital transformation across society. It began operation in September 2021 after a preparation period of just 4 months. Our mission is human-friendly digitalization. No one should be left behind. Our vision is government as a service or government as a startup. The pandemic itself is also pushing society towards digitalization. Telework, cloud computing, and the transition to cashless payment have been steadily progressing. In addition, the government has launched an initiative which seeks to spread the benefit of digital transformation to municipalities, business, and individuals across Japan. Changing the central government in Tokyo is not enough. We are promoting smart cities around the country in cooperation with local governments, medical institutions, and others. We are currently focusing on 3 initiatives. The first is a government cloud. The digital agency has developed a government cloud as a common digital infrastructure. Its applications can be used by central ministry and local government. This will enable rapid information collaboration, enhanced response to crisis, and increased operational efficiency for local government. The second initiative is to develop and expand the use of individual ID numbers. We call it My Number in Japan. And from May of this year, Android smartphones will be equipped with My Number function. People with My Number card, digital or real, will receive a variety of benefits. For example, people can use it as a health insurance card, a record of medical history and a prescription, and a driver's license. IDs can be integrated, and you don't need to carry multiple cards anymore. One smartphone allows you to access various government services. The third initiative is updating and modernizing analog era regulations to make them suitable for the digital age. To realize a society-wide digital transformation, about 10,000 laws and regulations made in the analog era will be overruled in the next 2 years. In addition, we are making technology maps which will be created and made public to identify technologies that can be used to substitute analog technologies. This will enable workers in the field to search for digital alternative. For example, laws that require the inspection personnel be stationed at the work site or that visual checks be carried out in person are being changed to allow for inspection by remote cameras or drones. The basic idea is to take practical steps to make society more convenient with digital technology. It's no secret Japan's population is shrinking. Depopulation means we need to find ways to use labor more efficiently through the use of AI and other technologies so that humans can work where they are most needed. I've been talking a lot about the data and technology, and the vision for the society that I'm describing is profoundly human-centered. It's this vision that I keep pushing forward. Japan holds G7 presidency this year, and I will host the digital ministers meeting in April. Currently, I'm visiting 6 countries in 12 days to spread the message ahead of this event, the trip that I hope will generate some excitement about some important issues. The G7 this year will discuss promotion of trust, including the challenge of fake news and disinformation, or internet resilience, emerging technologies to promote innovation, and human-centered AI implementation. But the most important is DFFT, the data free flow with trust. I believe that the world will be more convenient and prosperous if trustworthy data flows freely while security, privacy, and intellectual property are protected. The benefits can be seen in some areas already. Manufacturers can now obtain real-time data on the operational status of IoT devices sold in different countries and provide maintenance services such as fault prediction. This is an area where barriers to data transfer are relatively low because it's mostly non-personal information. Other areas are more complicated, such as autonomous driving, for example. In Japan and other countries with labor shortages, autonomous vehicles are expected to play an important role in public transportation. But the AI algorithms that control self-driving vehicle must be refined through the constant collection of a large amount of driving and location data. Smart and transparent rulemaking is crucial in this field. But meanwhile, in China, their data localization regulations are making it increasingly difficult to transfer data overseas. That is an obstacle to innovation, since until recently, China had served as a huge technology demonstration site for companies from around the world. Now is the time to accelerate efforts to promote cross-border data flows among like-minded countries under the banner of DFFT. DFFT was endorsed at the G20 Osaka Summit in 2019. Former Prime Minister Abe, former President Trump, and the President Xi Jinping sat around the same table, and the heads of state and government agreed to the concept. Over the past 2 years, roadmaps and action plans have been presented at the G7 in the UK and Germany, and discussions on DFFT have progressed. As chair, I will carry on and lead a discussion to produce concrete results. That will mean every country will have the exact same rules. Even among G7, the United States places more emphasis on data-free flow, and Europe places more on privacy protection. We know each country has its own view and policies on data. But cooperation to ensure interoperability and transparency among the national systems is possible. We had a good news on this front last year. The United States and the EU announced an agreement in principle for a new data privacy framework, and OECD published its declaration on government access to personal data. I'm greatly encouraged by these developments, as I try to help build a bridge across our divided digital world and alleviate the splinter net crisis. Privacy is an ever-present concern, but emerging technologies could help address the issue. These innovations like PETs, or privacy-enhancing technologies, and RegTech, meaning regulatory processes that are carried out through technology. PETs enable the use of personal information in data analysis and in machine learning, and so on, while protecting privacy. They use technologies such as differential privacy, which adds noise to data to make it difficult to identify individual, and secure computing, which allows data to be processed in encrypted form. This way, data can be used in a manner that is compliant with regulations and ensures privacy. To operationalize Dfft, we would like to promote the collaboration with companies and universities to develop and deploy important technologies. Japan would like to take opportunity of the G7 to agree to accelerate institutional cooperation and technological responses to Dfft and to propose an international framework for public-private partnership that will serve as the core of this effort. As a political leader, I am firmly committed to policies that ensure the legitimacy or legitimate handling of data from the perspective of security, privacy, and intellectual property protection, and that ensure the authenticity of data itself. In addition, while respecting the diversity of data governance practices in each country, I would like to establish an organization that may be called Institutional Arrangement for Partnership, in which policy experts, companies, universities, and other entities with real knowledge and experience can develop and implement specific projects that will turn Dfft into reality. The Japanese government would like to obtain the endorsement and participation of the G7 government, as well as public and private entities from the like-minded countries in the establishment of this organization. As one concrete example of the project for this organization, I would like to suggest that we first establish an international base registry of regulations on cross-border data transfer and data localization. Currently, there are complex and overlapping regulations on data in various countries. And to make matters worse, regulations on data change very frequently. A base registry of regulations will provide a basis for countries to improve their own systems or promote mutual compatibility of the systems, and would increase legal transparency and the stability for industry in each jurisdiction. From working at home in Fuji Xerox to my former role as Ministry of Regulatory Reform and now as a Minister for Digital Transformation, I have always been looking for ways to bridge the digital and the physical world. This year, as the G7 chair, Japan wants to bring the public and private sectors together to make digital governance better. And we hope that by sharing our own experience with digital transformation, we can contribute to the development of a global digital society. So thank you very much, and looking forward to the discussion.
All right, so I didn't want to play like that whole entire meeting that you guys saw from a while back, right? But the key thing is that should give you a more broader perspective of literally where Japan is at right now and where they're going here very, very soon. So here's another one that's up to date. And the reason why I want to show you this is because like what it mentions right here. G7 to request FATF to review regulations on private transactions of virtual currencies. Remember earlier in the outline, there was some specific mentions, I believe, from level, what's his name, level 8, right? Level 6, level 8, apologize. In regards to virtual currencies and so on. Let's get into that. So it says, considering regulation of personal trading of virtual currency. Check this out. It turned out that the G7, 7 advanced countries, intends to request a Financial Action Task Force, FATF, to consider developing regulations for interpersonal transactions of crypto assets, virtual currencies. So literally what you guys saw in the whole outline, now it's coming. Okay, and again, this is reported on May 11th, just like you saw right here yesterday. So this is really, really fresh and new. I give you all this information from years back to present to give you an idea and perspective of what the heck is going on right now. So the purpose is to expand regulations not only between exchanges, but also between individuals for the purpose of anti-money laundering and combating the financing of terrorism. At the meeting of finance ministers and central bank governors to be held from the 11th, FATF will be requested to verify the issues and countermeasures. It has been a challenge to improve the effectiveness of regulations on interpersonal transactions of virtual currencies. After making this request, the FATF will consider specific regulations. Blockchain is not anonymous but also highly transparent, and various analysis tools have been developed so far. The move has led to speculation that the introduction of such tools will eventually become a necessity. A necessity? So what would this mean for something like Jasmy, right? So at the end of the day, here's the thing, people are going to bash Jasmy. I've seen a few guys in the comments like JJ and so on, right? Every chance he gets, he basically wants to bash Jasmy. Whatever, all right? It is, free speech. They basically state that, I am misguiding everybody, whatever, right? Thank you for helping our YouTube algorithm at the end of the day, right? But here's the main thing. When you see something mentioned right here, the move has led speculation to the introduction of such tools, which will eventually become a necessity. I think of this. What ones are tied into these tools? And especially since they're mentioning blockchain. Okay. Even for the people that want to bash Jasmy, can you name, many of the competitors out there? Now, some of you guys might say Arweave, and I don't think that's the case. As we know, like I mentioned before in a previous video, that's unlimited data. That's not personal data. And that's a totally different type of project, right? But when you think about it, when a person takes more of a deeper dive into all this, it always leads back to, for me at least, with Jasmy. There is too much writing on the wall that leads back to Jasmy. The Sony connections, some of the roles some of these guys have, right? For instance, what we just shared in regards to one of the top dogs from Jasmy, his Sony connections with the other guy from Sony. And then also, for instance, being the president of a school for, some of the innovation and these technologies and his ties to government. I mean, at the end of the day, there's not a lot of people that have these high up positions with that much ties into the government. I'm just throwing that out there. People also say, hey, that's speculative too. Okay, so a lot of it is. But they definitely have some connections. Any way you want to dice it. Well, the floaters are going to dice it any way they want. Teach his own. How about some of the G7 initiatives? The next G7 summit will be held in Hiroshima from the 19th of this month of May, and the share country will be Japan. The finance ministers and central bank governors meeting, reported this time, will be held ahead of the G7 summit. I apologize for all that scratching. My allergies are still bothering me. That's what happens when spring comes, All right, so it states, it was reported in March that the G7 expected to discuss tightening regulations on cryptocurrencies in preparation for a meeting of finance ministers and central bank governors. The G7 will issue a joint declaration on how to respond amid concerns over the potential risks posed by cryptocurrencies to the global financial system. According to Kyoto News sources, in particular, it aims to increase transparency and consumer protection in the cryptocurrency business. This is why before I was stating a few videos back that Japan, in my belief, could very well be the ones that end up being like the hero of crypto to lead the charge towards that regulatory clarity. Why? They already have the framework. If one of the key things for all this to come together, that we always hear, for instance, with Ripple's XRP, Stellar XLM, you name it, right, is that we have to have the regulatory framework, then get the clarity before we can have institutional money coming in. What if you already have a country that has the framework? And what if you have a country that's ready to embrace crypto, blockchain technology, DLT, the whole 9 yards? Yes. That's why I feel as though Jasmy could still very well be the one that gets to the promised land. All this recent FUD, if you think about it, is not because of Jasmy. It's because of what happened in light of Binance's reaction to all this. And by the way, stay tuned to the very end of this video. I know this is quite the long deep dive. You'll see some things that are very hypocritical of Binance. All right? You're going to want to stay tuned to that. All right, so let's jump into this. And I don't know, maybe some people feel as though I could have broke this all up, but honestly, you would have been watching the whole thing anyway, because it really gets into some of this. So this guy who is at Hyde Par 7, shout out to you, and he states in this interpretation, Coinbase Japan does not handle Jasmy. The original Coinbase cannot be used by Japanese people. By all means, Coinbase Japan, with the power of Coinbase user Jasmy fans all over the world, I would like to ask for advice on listing Jasmy. Thank you in advance. They may very well choose to do that. And if you guys have been paying attention to some of the stuff, we have reported that there was a lot of transactions that moved from, what was it, like 110 or 112 million from a Coinbase wallet. Could that be some of the institutional money actually going to Coinbase? Very well could be. Jasmy Pirate reports Jasmy at 100% buy at Coinbase 6 hours ago. So you want to talk about supply and demand? There's some of that supply. There's some of that demand. Coinbase, let's see you get something going on for Jasmy. All right. There's this from Lord Jasmy. He says, Japan could lead the global efforts on data governance. All right. And of course, some people are saying this is very bullish. I would agree with them. Here's where that report comes from. The potential of emerging data economy lies in the ubiquitous data generated by Internet of Things. This is cited from CSIS, that video that you guys basically saw from their particular site. So, generated by Internet of Things, IoT, smart cities, online platforms that will drive smart applications and autonomous systems that overcome social issues, free humans from burdensome, route tasks and I think that's a typo, and unlock new tools and capabilities. Realizing this vision requires balancing the need for data to flow freely between people and systems around the world with the need to address growing public distrust of how companies and governments use just that data. Japan calls this balance data free flow with trust. I want to show you guys this real quick. In light of these differences, Japan's Dfft protocol is hard to argue with. In practice, however, it may become difficult to develop concrete policies and institutions that address the legitimate concerns of both sides. How about this? Japan could play a central role in bridging these divides, and guess what, guys? They already are. It's going on as we speak. So I want to bring that to your attention. The other thing I want to bring to your attention is this right here. This comes from a while back, right? Collective action spark innovation for data flows. I mean, the inception of all this again was 2019. There was this update back in 2021, but it says the UK, Japan, and EU can lead the way, but in reality, it's Japan that's leading the way. So, you see this right here. It says, basically speaking, that the G7 and its partners have different ideas how to best approach DFFT. So the greater UK, EU, Japan policy coordination to overcome any inconsistencies in approach can play a key role. Very true. In regards to DFFT, the UK, EU, Japan policy coordinator to overcome any inconsistencies in approach can play a key role. Japan's Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, which is the CEPA, is the UK's first post-Brexit trade deal, includes bans on unjustified restrictions across border electronic information transfers for business purposes and on unjustified requirements to use, locate, and computing facilities in the countries in which business is conducted, known as data localization, a barrier to the free cross-border flow of data. These changes mark a huge step in the arrangements made under the earlier EU trade deal, but it remains to be seen on how the UK will adopt the DFFT framework with broader trade partners in Asia, including the CPTPP. Of course, there's Japan's contribution to it and so on. You get the gist of this. All right, what I want to show you guys is this. For almost 4 years ago, Japan proposed a solution to this dilemma of this whole thing of trust and data policy. Here it is. I understand a lot of us not fans of WEF, but this is good information. The idea known as data flow with trust, or DFFT, has been endorsed by members, as we know, of the G20 and even the G7, and incorporated into numerous international trade agreements. The World Trade Organization, WTO, is using its principles to guide negotiations over global e-commerce rules. When I tell you guys some things about how I feel that, Japan is leading the way, this literally gives you an outline from beginning to end of how they're doing just that. When there's only a select few cryptocurrencies, let's face it, in Japan, actually not many at all, and you see Jasmy at the forefront, it does make you wonder, is there some kind of suppression going on in regards to Jasmy due to his technologies that they're tied in and everything that's happening here with regulations? Now, one last thing I want to leave you guys with is this. Understand this. In the United States, we have seen countless examples of how crypto is being suppressed by members of our government, and especially when it comes to people that are tied into Wall Street and so on, especially the traditional financial sectors of the world, the JP Morgans and so on, which makes no sense when considering quorum, right? We're not going to get into that deep dive. But understand that any industry that's been around for the longest time, when they see a threat to that industry where they feel as though it could possibly, be a big disturbance that's going to, let's face it, hurt their own pocketbooks, they're going to do whatever they can to suppress things. Could Jasmy, for instance, be a perfect example of suppression due to recent regulatory framework to lead towards that clarity? There is quite the outline here that would suggest just that. Am I 100% right when it comes to that? No, I could be wrong. But my thing is this. I put things together, I connect the dots with research, and I come to the conclusion that there is something here that needs to be brought to people's attention. Sure, this is not necessarily all about the Jasmy coin, but it definitely gives you a broader perspective of why this makes so much sense. Because if our main goal to get that generational wealth is through regulatory clarity, and that regulatory clarity is being suppressed because of the regulatory framework that exists through different forms of government throughout the world, then you could draw your own conclusion that, you know what, man, maybe that's what's really going on. But again, some people are going to say that's just my theory, and I could respect that. All right, I want to show you guys this real quick. This was recent. This comes from the House of Chimera. What makes Jasmy coin unique? Some of you guys know this, some of you don't. It's data ownership. Allows individuals to own and manage their own IoT data, ensuring transparency and control. Data marketplace facilitates a platform where users can monetize their data by trading or leasing it to interested parties. Again, some like the things that you saw basically mentioned on the outline earlier. Flexible IoT integration supports many IoT devices and platforms, enabling seamless data transactions, and most importantly, privacy protection. It maintains user anonymity and data privacy, making it attractive for privacy-conscious users. Like this guy says, who's, shout out to Grass by Gordy. I appreciate you following me and so on. Always glad to see you in the comments. He says the Japanese Bitcoin is showing its true colors. The retail holders are warriors. The whales are shepherds. It will just take a little more organic growth and nothing will stop us. Like he says, Jasmy has a higher buy rating than Bitcoin. And of course, that was on the 7th. I understand people are going to say, well, that was before this whole thing that happened with Binance. But speaking of Binance, this is the hypocritical thing I was going to tell you about. And I mentioned I would say it towards the end. I posted this. I said, proof of manipulation, the saga continues. Shout out to Dip Metaverse. Does a great job with his Jasmy content. Says, for instance, what's going on here? 5.99% staking on Binance. This was posted 2 hours ago. CZ, but why? Maybe building hype for when Binance comes to Japan, right? On June 1st. Why offer staking if you're going to put this in the innovation zone? That doesn't make any sense. There's a lot of things from Binance that just simply don't make sense. And CZ, what is he doing? He's just ignoring all this. So, let's continue to have Jasmy trend. I saw there was like 1.2 million tweets and it was trending in regards to Jasmy. He's going to have to answer about this at some point, at least in my opinion. How about this? For everybody that was down in the dumps about Jasmy, it did go from the 0.0045, like in the price range that I purchased it for on my third bag, and it has rocketed past 0.005 today. Shout out to Mentalec for reporting this. The quote is going to zero, and Jasmy haters are strangely quiet today. And they are. Footers are always quiet when there's positive news. For the most part. There's always those ones that will, post certain things, to say the least. All right, guys. That's going to wrap up today's deep dive in regards to Jasmy. I know there was a lot of information to get into, and it was probably over an hour on this video. So you don't have to watch it all at once. You can always come back to it. Some of you guys listen to us. We gotten reports about that, like in Bluetooth radio format or at work and so on. Whatever the case be, I hope this gave you some encouragement of where we're going here soon when it comes to Japan leading the charge. If Japan is embracing blockchain technology, at the end of the day, follow the path. If the path leads you to, for instance, Jasmy, that has some unique business concepts that actually are no longer just concepts, they actually have real world use cases and products behind it, hence the the Jasmy secure PCs and so on. Well, you could try to find out, does this really have value? And if so, where could this possibly go in the future? As the saying as the saying goes, like I've always mentioned before, know what you have, know what you hold, and know why you hold it. You've done the research. If a project is solid, then the research speaks for itself. No amount of FUD could ever trump that, is what I'm basically trying to say. So I won't keep you guys any bit longer. If you join a live show, check us out at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific for Crypto Talk Now. On behalf of myself, Larry, and the rest of the CTN Network crew, we thank you for watching or listening to today's deep dive in regards to Jasmy. And y'all have a blessed day, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.